All right, peace. Welcome everyone to HipHop circa 1973. I am Infinity, and welcome to the podcast episode number 4. All right, thank you everyone for being here today. We have a few things to talk about, so let's get right into it. All right, so first things first, let's give some birthday shout outs. Young Jeezy, his birthday is today. Shout out to him. I remember when I first heard Jeezy, I believe this was in high school, maybe 2004, 2005, around that area. I remember his songs out. I remember the Snowman T-shirts that everybody was rocking. He definitely had the game on lock, So shout out to Young Jeezy. Happy birthday to you. I want to give a belated birthday shout out to Lil Wayne. His birthday was yesterday on the 27th. What is there not to say about Lil Wayne? He is one of the legends, definitely transcended decades and decades and eras and to be going just as strong, is very admirable. Lil Wayne is one of those artists that you watch develop and grow. For when he first came out, I believe it was like 98, maybe 99. And then, being with Cash Money, being with the Hot Boys, and then, going solo. It's just crazy to see, to him having the whole hip hop game just under lock and key, those years where he was just on every song, coming out with mixtape after mixtape, album after album. He is definitely one of the greatest to ever do it. So shout out to Lil Wayne for that. And happy birthday to him. We have a few other belated birthdays. Raz Kaz, his birthday was yesterday. So happy birthday to him. He is one of the greatest lyricists ever. To his solo work, to his work in the Four Horsemen, he has been coming out with quality music for a while now. So happy birthday to you. And happy birthday to Herbie the Love Bug Arzo. Azor. I apologize. Herbie the Love Bug Azor. If you don't know who he is a super producer. He worked a lot with Salt and Pepper, Dan and Dane as well. He actually co-wrote the smash hit "Push It" by Salt and Pepper. Push it, dun 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 dun. Classic song. You could put that song on in a party today, and people will still get jumping. That's one of those party songs that is just timeless. It's definitely a classic. So, happy birthday to him as well, and everybody else that I failed to mention. Happy birthday to you. Happy hip hop birthday. Because we like to celebrate the people within our culture, right? A few anniversaries to discuss. On this day, September 28th, KRS-One released his first album, Return to the Boom Bap. This was in 1993. This album, classic album. This was the introduction to KRS-One, as far as like his first solo album. Prior to this, he was with the Boogie Down Productions. So this was his first solo project. Fire solo project, and I was just listening to it the other day, and it's just crazy how music and songs that was created decades and decades ago still sounds fresh and sonically sounds up to date. It just it just shows you that music is timeless and it's something that will live forever. So shout out to that classic album that dropped today back in 1993. There's also two more things that dropped on that same day, September 28th, 1993. We got the debut album from Souls of Mischief, 93 Till Infinity. I was a big fan of this group, still am today. When they came up with that song, "This Is How We Chill" to 93 Chill, like that whole vibe was me. Like the laid back type of beat, the horns in there and the bars. That I love that song. That song in particularly. But that whole album is fire. So shout out to them for releasing that classic album on this day back in 1993. Also, the last one on that particular day in September 28th, 1993, Spice One released his, I believe it was his second album. It's called 187 He Wrote. The thing was with Spice One, he's going to come hard all the time. All the time. And he definitely has the bars. This album is a classic album. So that day was actually a great day for hip hop. We had KRS-One dropping, we had Souls of Mischief dropping, and we had Spice One dropping, all on the same day. So shout out to those three projects. Last, definitely not least, we have the second album of Redman and Method Man together, called Blackout, and that came out on September 28th, 1999. Classic album from two classic MCs. I have a lot of love for Red and Meth, for all of Wu-Tang. Definitely raised me. Definitely, I've been heavily influenced by them. So, shout out to them. Classic project, and it's all love. All right. So those are the anniversaries to discuss. Now let's discuss music. New music, I should say. Pardon me. So there's been a lot of good music coming out as of late, as there always is. But just to name a few, King Crooked and Joel Ortiz released their follow-up project together called Harbor City Season 1. That came out, I believe it was the 16th of this month. If you like bars, if you like metaphors, punchlines, lyrics, this is definitely the album for you to check out. You would not be disappointed. King Crooked never disappoints, always has bars. I feel like he's one of the best, just as far as just bars alone. Like, he can spit, and it's effortless, it seems. Joel Ortiz, again, lyricist, bars on top of bars on top of bars. This album is fire, so definitely check that out. It's called Harbor City Season 1. Also, recently, it's been a few more albums. Oh, yes, so Fonte, right? So I'm a big fan of Fonte. Those who don't know who Fonte is, Fonte was a part of the legendary group Little Brother. It was him, it was Big Pooh, and the producer Ninth Wonder. They had a group. They're all from North Carolina. They released, I think it was like 4, maybe 5 projects as far as like mixtapes and albums, and every single one of them has a big part of my growing up. From the minstrel show to the listening, those albums really shaped who I am as an artist, my taste in music, and this is Fonte's first solo album, so it came out yesterday. It's called Charity Starts at Home. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will today. And then once I sit with it for a couple of days, I will give a full review. Because again, Fonte is one of my personal favorites, So I'm excited to hear this album, his first solo album. So I want everybody to check that out. It's called Charity Starts at Home, Fonte. All right. So new music dropping. So we got plenty of songs and albums coming out this Friday. First things first, we got Kid Cudi. Legendary artist, very creative, very artistic. He's coming out with a project called Intergalactic. It's coming out this Friday, September 30th. And the cool thing about this particular album is he's releasing the project, but he's also has a animated series that coincides with this project, and that's dropping on Netflix on Friday as well. And I think that's a dope concept, because hip hop and music is not just audible; it's visual as well. So, and especially if you know how to, paint pictures with your words and things like that. You got the audio, which is the music, and now you got the visual that's coming together. And I think this project is going to be something special. I feel like this is the lane that hip hop should go into. I feel like it's different. It's cool. It's unique. It's creative, and I am looking forward to looking at the animated series as well as listening to the music. A big fan of Kid Cudi, and I think this is going to be a great project. So that's coming out on Friday. Also, we have Tory Lanez coming out with a project this Friday. It's called Sorry for What. This should be a very good album. Tory Lanez is very underrated. He's very creative. He's very talented. So I am looking forward to this project. I know it's going to be good. He definitely has bars. He can hold a note, so he's definitely versatile. So I am looking to see where he goes with this project. So that's coming out on Friday as well. It's called Sorry for What. All right, so who else? We have Freddie Gibbs coming out with a project this Friday. It's called, what is it called? It's called Soul Sold Separately. So Soul Sold Separately. Freddie Gibbs is one of those artists that, he kind of, he can be like lyrical, very, very lyrical, but he can also appeal to like a wider audience. So he's definitely great at that. I liked all his projects he did with Madlib. I'm not sure if he's producing this one as well, but I know Freddie Gibbs got an ear for production. So whoever is producing on this album, I'm sure it's going to be some fire. So I am looking forward to this album as well. It's coming out this Friday, September 30th. It's called Soul Sold Separately. All right, we got a few more. We got YG. He's coming out with a new album this Friday. It's called I Got Issues. YG is one of those artists, a California legend. So I am looking forward to this to this album. I Got Issues, coming out September 30th, this Friday. And last but not least, shout outs to Prodigy. Continue to rest in peace. God bless the dead. His estate is coming out with an album this Friday titled Hegelian Dialectic Part 2, the Book of Revelations. So this is a follow-up on Part 1. I'm happy that this is coming out. The thing with music is it surpasses the artist that created it. Rest in peace to Prodigy. He passed several years ago. But the fact that we're still able to hear new music is such a great thing. So, everyone check that out. It's coming out this Friday as well. All right. So that's it for new releases. If I miss your project, I do apologize. There's a lot of music that drops daily. So, shout out to everyone that's releasing music. All right. In other news, I want to give a big shout out and a big congratulations to Rihanna. It was just announced that she will headline the next year Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. That's big. Rihanna is one of those artists where she doesn't have to drop at all. She's already her legacy is already cemented. She's done had classic records, classic albums. I think her last project was 2016. So it's been a while, but she has records. She has songs. So she can definitely hold her own on that stage. So I think this is big for hip hop, it's big for her. Jay-Z, she has that connection. Jay-Z working with the Super Bowl, and the halftime performances. So I think this is a very good look. I'm looking forward to seeing Rihanna. Always had a crush on Rihanna, as most people probably have. And I'm looking forward to, what she does, the guest artists that she brings out. Also, I want to congratulate her on her. I'm not too sure if she had the baby yet, but I know as of late as I remember, she was pregnant. So congratulations to her as well. This is big, and I am looking forward to this performance. So on the same elk, Little Baby actually is performing at the 2022 World Cup. So this is big as well. I believe from what I read, this is the first hip hop artist, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the first hip hop artist to perform at this World Cup. So shout out to Little Baby for that. He released a song recently for the World Cup, which is fire, and he will be performing at the game at the halftime. All right, so shout out to both of them. It really shows you just how far hip hop has came. To be in something that people wrote off early back in the early 70s, mid 70s, even into like the early 80s. People thought hip hop was just a passing fad, that it was here today and it will be gone tomorrow. But today, hip hop artists are performing on the biggest stages in the world, and it just shows you how far we've come as a culture, and just the possibilities. So definitely shout out to those artists, Little Baby and Rihanna. Continue to hold the torch, continue to push the culture forward, and I feel like this is just great news. So congratulations to both of them. All right, in other news, we have this Twitter back and forth with a lot of female MCs, women MCs, and honestly, I try not to focus on drama because I feel like there's already enough people focusing on drama. I'm here to just uplift the culture, celebrate the culture. So if I can interject with just a little bit of, like there's enough things to be concerned about in the world, and then all these rappers beefing, and it's ridiculous, because a lot of these artists are millionaires. A lot of these artists, are wealthy. They're taking care of their families. They've made it out of where they were to the position that they are today. And it just seems like the mentality they haven't left behind. I don't want to judge, because I'm not in their shoes. But I will say, like, the back and forth. I mean, look, if it's going to be on record, okay, because that element has always been in hip hop, as far as like battling and diss records and things like that. That has always been a part of hip hop since the beginning. So I'm cool with that, I just hope that it stays on record. And if it's deeper than that, then I hope that it can get resolved peacefully, There was some back and forth between Cardi B and a rapper, Akbar V. Just it just got to the point where people were talking about cheating and bringing people's moms into it. It just got really messy, and and honestly, if we can avoid that, now I don't know the ins and outs of their issue, so I can't really speak too freely about it. I just hope that they can get to a point where, I'm not saying they have to be best friends, but they can at least resolve whatever issues that they have. And if it's just a rap thing, then, let's keep it on the record. And again, if it's deeper, I hope it can be resolved and worked out. And this is on the heels of Cardi B going back and forth with Nicki, but it wasn't direct. You know, it was kind of like subliminal. They were tweeting, and it was kind of like shots, but you know, it was like shots when the lights is out, so you don't really know who's being hit or who's doing the hitting. But you know, again, all this stuff, I just wish that, you know, it could be resolved. If not, let's keep it on the record, and then let's use this to come out with dope records, you know. Excuse me. Cardi B just did a great verse actually on Tomorrow too. Cardi B has that. She has a great rap voice, and I know people say, "Oh, she doesn't write her own stuff." And now I don't know how deep that goes. Like as far as like if she maybe like co-writes it or something like that, or she kind of has say in it. I doubt it's just like they give her a piece of paper with all of her bars and she just reads it verbatim. I kind of doubt it's like that. I'm sure she has some say in what is said, and she can edit the bars, or maybe she begins the first draft and somebody comes in and does the editing. Whatever the case be, Cardi B has that star power. She has a great rap voice, and she had a great verse on that Tomorrow 2 record. So shout out to Cardi B, shout out to Nicki, shout out to Akbar V, shout out to Megan, shout out to all the female MCs, shout out to Ice Spice. You know, she has that song that's taking over the world right now. Like it's fire. Like and Munch, right? And she is definitely going on a world tour with that song. And I love to see it, you know. Definitely I would say to her, milk it for all that it's worth, but just make sure that once that song begins to die down, you got others, you know, that you can just, you know, drop, you know, because she's definitely going on a world tour. But not to say that that's her only song, because she has records prior to that, but that is the song that took off, and you know that's shooting her into stardom. So shout out to Ice Spice. Continue to rock. Shout out to all female MCs, and I apologize if you don't like the word female. You know, some women have issues with that word. So shout out to all rappers or MCs that are women, if that's better. You know, there's always been one of my favorite MCs, and I'm just talking. One of my favorite MCs is actually a woman MC, and her name is Jean Grey. And those who don't know who Jean Grey is, I suggest you do your Googles. Okay, one of the illest MC, and it's so unfortunate that she's currently not dropping new music right now. I think she's writing books and writing movies and things like that, but music is not really what she's doing currently. So I've always had an affection and a reservation for women MCs. So again, all this beefs, all this back and forth, you all can coexist. You know, everyone can coexist together. So I just want to give a shout out to all of you. Keep rocking, keep doing your thing. You know, all right. So something that just broke not too long ago was the police have identified a person of interest in the murder death of PNB Rock. They released his picture. He has not been caught. He's not in custody, so he is on the run still. And you know, I'm happy that this progress has been made. Hopefully, he will get caught and he will have to, you know, stand trial for what he did, if in fact this is what he did. And I want all parties involved to be held accountable for this. Because again, like I said in the video that I made, this was totally unfortunate. It was totally avoidable. And it was something that didn't have to happen. So rest in peace to PNB Rock. I'm happy that these developments are happening. And, you know, I hope that he's found so he can, you know, stand trial, you know. So we'll see how that goes. We'll watch those developments, and then we will take it from there. All right. So I want to talk about the controversy that's been going on surrounding DJ Academics, and there's a lot to peel back regarding this topic, because there's a lot of conversations that that needs to happen, and I feel like this was an opportunity for these conversations to happen. I appreciate everybody's response to him. I feel like they were educated, they were from the heart, and they were in a attempt to reach out and teach the brother. From LL Cool J, I agree with everything he said. I think he was well within his right to speak on hip hop, especially like the early founders and pioneers, because Academics personally doesn't see LL as a pioneer. LL is a pioneer. He pioneered the culture. We got to remember, hip hop in the 70s, pardon me, even in the 80s, hip hop it wasn't seen as something that was going to be lasting, or it wasn't seen as something that was viable. When LL came, when Run DMC came in the early to mid 80s, those were the artists that made hip hop go global, right? Prior to that, hip hop was still a very small, very, very small market. When LL came, when Run DMC came, and those artists, it showed companies, corporate companies, that hip hop, there's money that could be made in hip hop, and that it was something that was big, right? So LL is a pioneer. I believe his first single was in '84, and his first album came out in '85. So I appreciate what LL said. I appreciate with what Russell Simmons said as well. He is a hip hop pioneer. He created Def Jam and all the artists that came from there. I feel like them two and everybody else. Lord Jamar, he had something to say. Spice One had something to say. So I appreciate everyone's opinion, and I agree with the majority of it. All right. So this is my opinion, and I will go on a deeper insight and a deeper conversation about this, because I felt like there's more to be said. And I don't want to get long-winded in this particular podcast about it. I will just say that you can't cut off your feet and think you're going to stand, right? And what I mean by that is the foundation, the pioneers of this culture known as hip hop. The majority of them, I'm not going to say some or just a little, the majority of them didn't prosper as far as with money, like people nowadays are doing, because number one, there wasn't that much money in it. Like I said before, hip hop was seen as a fad. There wasn't as many corporate interests and corporate sponsors in hip hop back then as there is today. So the ways of making money was very small, right? But that doesn't mean that they didn't contribute to the development and the culture of hip hop. Like, how can you say that? Like, you're not going to say your grandmother is dusty or your great grandfather is dusty because he didn't live in a mansion, or he didn't have a Benz or whatever cars people are driving. It's like there's certain things that you must do for the elders. Number one, you are supposed to move past where your parents came, right? And then your children are supposed to move past where you've came. Each generation is supposed to, pick up where the other person left off. So how can you blame someone or blame a generation or blame people who, one, at the time were just teenagers? These were young adults, very, very young, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. These were young people doing something for the love of it. You know, when hip hop started, no one knew what it was going to be. It was just, this is just something that we love doing, something that they were doing daily as far as like the block parties, and these were the beats that they were listening to. Like, this is just what they were doing. It wasn't until it was monetized to where it was like, oh, you can make money from it. But prior to that, it was just a way of life. It was their culture. So how can you blame them for not knowing the ins and out of music business? You see, so this conversation is not just about hip hop music business, because the music business is music business, and it's been around for like 100 years. So you can't blame artists from the 70s about a business that was around decades and decades prior to them even being born. And the same contracts that hip hop artists are signing are the same shitty contracts that rock and roll artists are signing, that R&B artists are signing, that pop artists are signing. So your issue is not with the OGs not passing the game down, because the music business is the music business. It's set up that way. The only way you can get a favorable contract is if you have some type of leverage. Jay-Z, I'm sorry, not Jay-Z, since Jay-Z signed himself, but Drake didn't have a favorable contract when he first, came out. Lil Wayne didn't have a favorable contract when he first came out. It wasn't until these artists got big and got successful to where they can renegotiate and then get favorable terms. So, and I don't feel like the OG rappers, not passing down the knowledge, which I feel like they did. TLC on a grand scale went on stage and said that they're being robbed. Prince, he had the word slave on his face. He had to change his name. He spoke freely, openly about it. A Tribe Called Quest, rule number 10,080, record people were shady. They were like, people have always been talking about it, but talking about it doesn't change the actual music business, right? So just to wrap it up, right? Because like I said, I will go on a deeper conversation about this because I feel like it's an opportunity. But lastly, no one's asking academics to bow down to those who came before them. All we're asking is just show respect. Like you stand on those shoulders of those that came before you. How can you look down on them and be like, oh, you look dusty? Because they might not be flashy, or they might not have the money that you may have, or artists today may have. I feel like that's irresponsible. It's very disrespectful. And honestly, I don't even think, because when he first made the initial comment, he was talking about the appearance, right? And he was talking about their lack of resources and money. And then when he tried to comment on what he said, he tried to clean it up and say, oh, he was talking about how they didn't pass down any game. I think that was just him trying to clean it up and try to spin it, right? In my opinion, I think when he first initially made that comment, he was talking about the way they look and the fact that they don't have money, right? And also keep in mind, the artists from the 70s, right? The next decade was the 80s, right? So a lot of them went through the crack era. The crack era was a real era, and it got a lot of people's messed up, And just like today, these young rappers are doing a lot of drugs. They're doing lean, they're doing mollies, they're doing ecstasy, they're doing a lot of stuff. They're smoking hella weed. So it's like a lot has changed, but then again, a lot hasn't changed. And again, when I go do the video, it might be today or tomorrow, I'm going to react to one of his Twitches. And I feel like his first initial response to the controversy is very, very telling. And I will respond to that. So again, academics, no one is saying that you haven't done anything, because you have built a brand. And I remember Academics, when I first got hip to him was when he was doing Everyday Struggle. I thought it was a great show. I really liked that show. The fact that it was a hip hop show, it was daily. They talk about hip hop news, and I really liked the show. That's when I first got hip to him, and he has definitely carved out a lane. He's definitely done great things in hip hop, and I just don't want him to forget, those who sacrificed for him in order for him to be where he's at today. But we'll talk more on that later, okay? But as I wrap this video up, I just want to give a piece about hip hop. It's 49 years old, and next year will be its 50th year. And I'm going to just reflect a little bit on the culture, on hip hop, where it's been, where it's going, and my relationship to hip hop. When I first got put onto hip hop was in the 9th grade. I was listening to hip hop prior to that, but it was just what was on the radio. So whatever that was on the radio, that's the songs that I was listening to. Those were the mix CDs that I was creating. And then in the 9th grade, I met somebody named Brian, and I believe he put me on to Tupac, right? So he was a big fan of Tupac. And then through Tupac, listening to him. Now, I've heard Tupac prior to that. I've heard, Dear Mama, Keep Your Head Up, Brenda's Got a Baby. Like, I've heard those songs. But I got deeper into who Pac was. And then following that, it was Nas. And then Nas was the one that really changed how I appreciate hip-hop music. Nas was the first artist that was painting pictures for me, that could say a rhyme. I could close my eyes and I can visualize everything he was saying. And that changed everything for me. When I began to rap and write, I kind of mirrored my style from Nas. Most of my songs that I ever did in the beginning were all stories. Like, that was the only type of song that I would write was story songs. So I thank Nas for that. And then through Nas, I started to get more into the production, because I was like, okay, Nas is rapping, but I like his beats, And then when I started to get into the beats, I began to get into DJ Premier, and then through that I was like Gangstar. So it was like just from that one artist, all these other leaves, and not leaves, but roots was opening up, and all these connections opened up for me, and it was a great thing. And then seeing hip hop develop to the mid 2000s, where we had ATL coming in and Georgia coming in with the crunk era and Little John and that hype, that hype music, and seeing that. And then I remember Nelly being very, very big during this time, and I was a big fan of Nelly, super big fan. I feel like his first, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 albums are hip hop classic albums. Like his first 4 hip hop classics. Even when he began to go into a more R&B / country, I still feel like he was putting out great quality music. So seeing hip hop develop through that, and then to the Lil Wayne era, was even more special to watch. Him, Lil Wayne, just totally, just wreak havoc on the game. Like, Lil Wayne had a chokehold on hip hop. Like, it was such a time, in the music. And then through Lil Wayne, you have your Drakes, you have your Nicki Minaj's, and it was just more great music that just kept developing to the 2010s. where you have all these artists, all these new sounds and ways of rapping. Now, then it became a thing where people were using harmonies and just the constant elevation of hip hop up until today. And I felt like hip hop has to keep evolving. It has to keep, you know, trying to be better and trying to do better. So I have my ears out to artists that are, changing the game, that are doing things differently. And I just thought of JID. His album actually just came out, I think like a week or two ago, and I should have mentioned it. I forgot. It slipped my mind. I don't remember the title of the album. I did listen to it. Fire album. JID has bars. He has bars, and he has a way of spitting where you have to hear it a couple of times in order for you to even know or get the full scope of what he's talking about. So shout out to JID. Check his new album out. JID is an artist that I can say that's elevating the hip hop genre, the hip hop culture forward, amongst other artists. But this last thought that I want to give people is, where do you see hip hop in the next 5-10 years? I want you to think about it, and I want you to leave a comment underneath. What's your thoughts on the current state of hip hop? Where do you think hip hop should go? Where do you feel that it is going? And just your general thoughts of hip hop. I would love to hear. So let me know. All right. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Very quick video. We have some more exciting things coming. I will be dropping the first concept video very, 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 very soon. Probably Friday, maybe tomorrow, but it will be very soon. Until then, I want to thank everybody. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please comment on the videos. I want to hear what people are thinking. I want to hear your opinions and your ideas about anything that I've talked about. So please let me know. I will respond. And, let's continue to push the culture forward. This is HipHop circa 1973. Peace.